Metropolitan Region Board to order.
This conference will now be recorded.
As our usual protocol, we will live stream this meeting on our YouTube channel. Should that live streaming fail for any reason, we will endeavor to get it back online. If we're unable to do that, we will record the meeting as evidence and post that meeting to our website as evidence of this meeting having been conducted in public. Mayor Dean, unfortunately, is unable to join us. He's got a conflict with out in Chestermere, and I believe the rest of Chestermere Council as well does have a conflict. So unfortunately, we will have no representative from Chestermere with us today, and he was up for the land acknowledgement. So does anyone wish to provide a land acknowledgement this morning or this afternoon? If anyone wants to volunteer? Mayor Gondek, go ahead, that'd be great. Ooh, I can't hear Mayor Gondek. Can anyone else hear her? No, Mayor Gondek, afraid we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Peter. Yep.
Okay. Come on, Joe T. Want to hear you. Her mouth's moving.
Mm-hmm. And the tech tells me your microphone's on, so I have no. I'm afraid I have no helpful suggestions, which is nothing new.
Control-Alt-Delete.
Text me your question, Joe T, and I'll ask him for you.
All right. Well, if anybody else want to maybe take the land acknowledgement, if we can't get the get Joe T's audio going, she's going to exit and rejoin. All right. If anyone happens to have one, feel free. Otherwise, I can do ours. Does that sound good to everyone? Okay. So I'll acknowledge that this meeting takes place on the traditional land of the territories of Treaty 7 that bears the traditional Blackfoot name of Mohkinstsis, which we now call the City of Calgary and our surrounding communities. We're tremendously honored to be in the traditional territory of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Amskapi Pikuni nations of the Blackfoot Confederacy and the Tsuut'ina Nation, the Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Goodstoney nations of the Stoney Nakoda, and the Otemiskwak Métis government of the Métis Nation. Our region is part of the Battle River Territory, which includes Rocky View and Foothills districts, as well as the districts of Calgary Nose Hill and Calgary Elbow. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, the CMRB is actively working to build meaningful and mutually beneficial long-term relationships with Indigenous nations and communities in and around this region. We make this acknowledgement as we move forward on our journey of reconciliation and recognize all nations, Indigenous and non, who live, work, create, play on this land, and we honor and celebrate the territory we share. And with that, we have called to order. Mayor Gondek, maybe we'll just try your audio again here, so hopefully we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We sure can.
Awesome.
All right, great news. We are rolling. I don't have much in the way of opening remarks. I do hope everyone had a fantastic summertime. I don't know if you've just found this. I suspect you have, that September has come in like a lion. It just got busy right from the moment after Labor Day, and frankly, a little bit before then. So hopefully everyone had a chance to get at least a little bit of downtime through the summer, and hopefully that summer rolls on a little bit further on into autumn here in this nice part of the world at a nice time of year. The agenda, you've had the agenda shared with you a week ago. You will note a couple of updates that arose from our governance committee meeting. Does anyone have any comments, questions, edits, or amendments to the agenda? Deputy Reeve Koken, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute there, Don.
Thank you for reminding me, Greg. Greg, I was just wondering, is there any need to have item number 7, the Canada Public Trust Fund expression of interest in the closed session? I believe the reason we had it in closed session before is the feds wanted to basically have the ability to announce it before we got into the aspect of expressing the interest. But now that the announcement's out there, is there any reason that it has to go into closed session?
Don, a couple things. I think what I heard you asking is why agenda item number 7 is in closed session. If that's the question, we can answer that. We also are having a really hard time hearing you. So I think you may just need to get a little closer to your computer microphone, or if there's a specific microphone that you can use. Assuming that was the question, is that correct?
Great. Am I louder now?
Not really.
Not really. How about now?
I'm afraid it's just very echoey and quite unclear, unfortunately.
You're going to shut yours off? Yeah, I think that we've got a duplication of machinery here that's causing us the issue here. Can you hear me now?
Not really clearly. What you might want to do, and Jamie has just dropped it in the chat, you can also dial in with a phone number and then mute your microphone on the online version, and then we can hear you a lot more clearly.
Greg, the bottom line is you're correct. That was my question. Why
Okay.
is number 7 under closed session?
Got it. Jamie, you want to take the question as to why number 7, the Canada Public Transit Fund EOI is in a closed session?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Clark, and thank you for the question, Deputy Reeve. We are in a competitive process with the expression of interest, and for that reason, we wanted to keep that in closed session.
That's great. Okay, I think we either Don has either dropped off entirely. Oh no, he's still there. Good. Sorry, I was just looking at active cameras. So
Greg, that's fine. I'm happy with the answer, so we can go with it as closed session.
Fantastic. Great. We can hear you a lot better now as well, so that's great. Okay, thank you. Anything else on the agenda here before we move along? And if there are no other questions or changes, I would invite a motion, please, to adopt the agenda. Deputy Reeve Koken, seconded by Mayor Brown. Any discussion on that? And by exception, anyone wishing to vote opposed to adoption of the agenda? Seeing, hearing none, it carries. All right, we have a reasonably dense and lengthy consent agenda here this time in the interests of efficiency. Our consent agenda today is made up of the minutes from our last meeting on 19th of July, exactly 2 months ago, 2024. The Q2 actuals as reviewed by governance, board strategic initiatives update, CMRB drought response update, and dissolution of delivery of policing services subcommittee. Does anyone wish to move any of those items on to the full agenda for consideration? If there are none, I will invite a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Mayor
Brown moves, Mayor Janung second. Any further discussion on the adoption of the consent agenda? And by exception, I will, anyone wishing to vote opposed to the adoption of the consent agenda? Seeing none, carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, we had a good discussion at LUSC about an update to the REF interpretation guidelines. And Lisa Tipman is going to take us through a discussion of the updates to the REF interpretation guide. Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you today, board members, are some amendments to the REF interpretation guide. As you will recall, the REF interpretation guide is really here to provide a consistent set of administrative procedures and processes so that the REF interpretation or the REF process remains transparent and predictable. And so we always try and update it whenever something comes to light that's not working. In this case, there was a REF application made by Foothills County where they were proposing to have a new hamlet growth area boundary and expansion approved. And the REF guide really just didn't have enough guidance for that. And so we have proposed a bunch of updates that are to address that particular issue, as well as a few others that have cropped up over time. There is a new section 7, that addresses when we want to approve and review new growth areas. that have certain requirements in the growth plan that the board should consider or must consider. So Section 7 deals with that. Section 6 is for exceptions, and so there's been some substantial updates there to kind of address some of the other things that came up when we were looking at how we would approve new growth areas. There was also a discussion about maybe we could do better on Section 6 exceptions. We've also updated our board meeting procedures to address some tweaks that your administration, members of administration were looking for. And then finally, we've opened up and broadened what a pre-application process looks like to try and be as helpful as we can be as CMRB administration and bring forward some of the experiences and learnings that we've had through the review process. This guide, as Chair Clark mentioned, was reviewed on September the 5th by Land Use and Servicing Committee and is before you today for approval. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Lise. Appreciate that. Any questions on the proposed amendments to the ref interpretation guide? And we had a good discussion about this at LUSC, and we batted back and forth a few things. But any questions here from the board? And if there are none, I would invite a motion that the board approve the proposed amendments to the ref interpretation guide. Deputy Reeve Koken moves. Do we have a seconder? Mayor Thorne, thank you. Any debate or discussion on that motion? And I will ask please then for a show of hands, all those in favor of adopting that motion. And any opposed? None opposed. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, we've moved efficiently through our agenda here so far today. Very impressive. Keep up the good work, folks. We are into our closed session. What we will do is stay on this go-to-meeting session for our closed
This conference
session.
is no longer being recorded.
We will stop recording and we'll stop streaming. And once we have for us
This
to
conference will now be recorded.
start the recording and just confirm also that we are live streaming again. Jamie or Scott or whomever, if you could let me know, we're good to go. Thumbs up from Jamie. Fabulous. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We had a couple of proposed motions arising out of our discussion in the closed session. If you look at the package that was sent around, I don't know if we're going to put those up on the screen, but the two motions that I see are that the board approve sending the Metro Region Agreement Stream Expression of Interest document to the Government of Alberta for application to the Housing, Infrastructure and Communities Canada Public Transit Fund, and that the board direct CMRB administration to compile a list of regional candidate projects, unprioritized, and send to Government of Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors to inform its upcoming Treasury Board discussions.
Happy to move that, Mr. Chair. Peter from
Mayor
Airdrie.
Brown makes that motion. Do we have a second? Mayor Janung, thank you very much. Any further discussion, any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion? Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, on to the proposed 2025 budget, which was discussed last week at governance, and I think forms part of the update you saw to your board packages. I will turn that over to Acting Chief Officer Jamie Graves to take us through that. Jamie, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Clark. Good afternoon to the board. Agenda page 46 shows the proposed budget for 2025. And the proposed budget is being brought to the board today due to the upcoming 2025 budget deliberations of member municipalities in October and November. And the upcoming CMRB budget requires member contributions. And so we wanted to ensure that the members have the information they need to inform those internal discussions. And the budget before you is based on a total forecasted 2025 budget that was presented in 2024. The reason for that is that the organization is in transition with the departure of the chief officer and the ongoing recruitment efforts. So this budget before you takes a business as usual approach for that. The CMRB is partially funded by an Alberta Community Partnership grant since its inception. And over time, that funding to the organization has been reduced to $1 million per year. Member funding formula was approved in October 2023, and that was the product of many years of work with CAOs and the governance committee and the board. And when the board approved that funding formula in 2023, it also asked CMRB admin to work with interested member municipalities to see if a more appropriate formula exists and report back to the board by Q4 of 2024. But that member funding formula was not required in 2024, and consequently the formula has not been tested. So CMRB are recommending, administration are recommending that we report back in 2025. Budget 2024 included a member contribution that was not needed, as I just was talking about, and the number of regional initiative projects were completed in-house in 2024, and so that resulted in a decrease to the spend of the regional initiative budget. But in 2025, the regional initiatives budget is back up to previous years, as the regional transportation and transit master plan project should be kicked off this year, representing the largest portion of the regional initiatives budget. And those, Mr. Chair, are my comments, opening comments, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board about the budget.
That's great. Thank you, Jamie. And in addition to the overall budget, there was a request at governance to include a breakdown by municipality of what this means in actual dollar terms. So you'll see that in your board packages as well on page, I was just looking at it, page 48, I believe, second last page in your package. It's there. So that was a specific request from governance. And with that, we'll turn it open to questions. Deputy Reeve Koken, go ahead. I'd have you on mute again, I'm afraid.
Man, I keep forgetting. Jamie, I may have missed it, but was the budget going to be talked about at the strat planning session in October? And is that session still on?
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. Yes, we are still having a strategic session in October of this year, and the budget is tangentially being discussed. It's essentially we're summarizing what work is ongoing, what we've approved through charter, and what we are working on with consultants in 2024-2025.
Are we expecting to formalize the work plan in October 25th?
The work plan being?
All the projects that should be taken off the list, some that should be added on the list, or some that should be continued?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. We are intending to have a discussion of what project budgets have been approved and what is ongoing. And should the board wish to revisit that project budget list and initiatives that have been already started, that would be the time. And if there are anything that we need to, if the board decides that they wish to add, we would have to have the discussion about what to remove. Thank you for your question.
Okay, so if we did that on the 25th and formalized it, would it take long to reestablish what the exact 2025 budget requirements are?
Thank you for the question. I would say it depends on what the board, if they are wishing to add or adjust to the extent that they're willing or interested in adjusting what you see before you. That might be a more difficult or larger undertaking, but if we are looking at the projects before us, what we've approved, and sticking with the implementation of the growth and servicing plans, then this would be what you're likely to see.
Okay, so what we're asking is the municipalities use this as a preliminary budget figure, and if it does get adjusted by the board, that would be recognized, and the municipalities could adjust their budgets in their new year as required.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Janung, you're on the list. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, we had a pretty fulsome discussion about this at governance, but Jamie, the budget that you're presenting to us today is built upon approved projects by the board to date. So I'm not really understanding the line of questioning. I guess it's either we approve it today, and I mean, it's not that it's written in stone and that we can't deviate from that, but it's your intent today to approve a budget and then have an action plan built from that. Strategic planning wise, if we were to change directions, I want to leave, I guess, room for that discussion. However, we've been talking for the last few years about these projects and how they're going to develop. So we're kind of at that stage where we need to fund them or not fund them. But to date, I guess my question is, they're all built upon approved projects already, correct?
That is correct.
So a lot of those discussions have happened. So now this really, I think the crux of the discussion today is, are we okay with the member funding, but we've already approved the formula. So I think that's really what it's going to come down to today. But so you are looking for an approved budget today from the board?
Yeah, the reason is because the member municipalities are asking what kind of funding do I need to set aside for the CMRB when I go into budget deliberations in late fall. And for that reason, we're bringing it forward today so everyone is aware and that this is essentially a status quo budget. We're moving forward with what has been approved to date and what projects have been scoped and put to market. And so that's kind of what we're here to do today.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the clarity on that. I think all of our administrations are probably well into budgets and have finalized most of the numbers. So I think any clarity we can provide them with the CMRB budget is prudent on our part as a board. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. I think we are we are earlier in sequence, I think, than we ordinarily would be for this exact reason, to provide that clarity. So we're a meeting ahead of ourselves, but as Jamie said, it's a status quo budget. So Reeve Miller, you're up next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would hope at the strategic planning session, we're going to bring forward some other funding formulas. Foothills was never on side with this formula. And I think there was a few others that questioned it as well. So yeah, based on the formula that you've got, I can't really say that we're all in agreement on this. And I certainly wouldn't be supporting this budget based on that. We didn't like that formula prior to this, but as you all know, with the state of how this voting structure is set up on the CMRB, we are outvoted whether we disagree or not. So I would be voting opposed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Reeve. Any other questions or comments on the budget? Okay.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Certainly, Mayor Brown, would you move that the board approve the proposed 2025 budget?
As stated, thank you.
So moved. Thank you. Do we have a second? Mayor Thorne, thank you very much. Any further debate or discussion on the 2025 budget? All right, and show of hands, all those in favor? And opposed? 2 opposed. All right, that motion carries. We count Chestermere and High River in their absences voting in favor as per the regulation, and that motion carries. Reeve Miller, go ahead. No, all right, is that just your hand? Is that just your vote up? Sorry, you're on mute again.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it was from prior.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. Okay, on related discussion that we also talked about at governance, consideration of adjusting the CMRB's fiscal year end. Jamie, back to you.
Thank you, Chair Clark. So when contemplating the current reserves, the revenues and expenses in those project budgets, considering cash flow, we typically receive our grant between September and November in the year, and that means that we're running on cash for a majority of the year, always respecting the reserve policy. And the organization is maturing and evolving, and our initiatives have begun to engage other organizations and other orders of government. And importantly, we are pursuing opportunities for partnerships and grant funding with other orders of government, which may reduce member contributions if we are successful. And so if our project spending and burn rate becomes irregular or not predictable, then the risk of cash flow issues does increase. So there's no tool currently for financing projects or front-ending projects while we wait for receipt of partner organization funds. So in terms of timing, that's not it's expected to be a risk in the year coming ahead of us. However, that may be a future consideration. So one way to mitigate this issue is to change the organization's year end to align with the provincial and federal governments of March 31st. And that may ease the cash flow risk and also sync up the timelines for grant reporting. And it would also mean that we'd receive funds earlier in our fiscal year, putting less strain on the cash flow and risk to the reserve fund policy. So to do this, we would do a current year end audit at the end of December in 2024 as usual, started in January, obviously. And then we would have to complete what I'm calling a mini audit for after Q1 with support from our auditor. And to give the board a sense of order of magnitude of cost, this would be approximately $7,000. And following that, we would be set to complete our annual audit as usual, March 31st on an annual basis. So in researching this recommendation, I understand many government adjacent organizations do this, including the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board. And so I'm happy to hear any questions that the board has, Mr. Chair.
Jamie, thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Jamie on adjusting our fiscal year end to March 31? I think we agree if one audit is good, 2 audits must be better. Okay, I would invite a motion, please, that the board approve adjusting CMRB's fiscal year end to March 31. Anyone care to make such a motion?
I will.
Mayor Thorne, thank you very much. A second, please. Deputy Reeve Koken, thank you. Any further discussion on that motion? And seeing none, by show of hands, please, all those in favor. And any opposed? None opposed. Chestermere High River being absent, both vote in favor, and that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, that was an efficient board meeting. We are on to roundtable. Does anyone have anything they wish to share? Any questions they wish to address here while we're all together on roundtable?
Just one thing from my side, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Jamie for stepping up and doing an excellent job in the absence of our CEO, and I really appreciate you and the work that you're doing. I'm sure it's a lot of extra time on your behalf, and just wanted to sincerely thank you. Doing a great job.
As the person who gets the privilege of working with Jamie on a mostly daily basis, I couldn't concur any higher. It was fantastic. It has been great. So continue a little while longer yet, but yeah, thank you, Jamie. Mayor Gondek, hand up, go ahead.
Thanks. I just wanted to thank our partners in Airdrie and Chestermere for being great water conservation people while we have been going through our struggles with our water feeder main. And I want to thank the other partners at the table as well for agreeing to provide water to some of our folks who came to you. I know that when Stampede was trying to have their backup plan created, they spoke extensively with Rocky View County, and Cochrane played a role in making sure that we had water for the botanical gardens. And I know that in Okotoks, you were very willing to help us out as needed. So we couldn't have done this without everyone participating. So thank you, everybody, for being such good partners. This was a tough one. No, big hugs.
I don't think I've ever seen a virtual meeting hug before. That was that's the first, and it is welcome. We should maybe start or conclude every future meeting with a big virtual group hug. So, but that's great. I'm really pleased. I think we all are, Mayor Gondek, that we're hopefully getting towards the end of that water restriction. It has been quite a time. It has been quite a time. So, and kudos to you and to your incredible team there. I know it's a lot of long hours. It's just been an amazing, incredible amount of work, and I can only imagine what it's been like. So we're all thinking of you, and you hopefully you get a nap here at some point. Okay, good. Anything else under roundtable? If there is none, our next meeting is a triple-barreled meeting together. We've got a speaker series, an exciting and interesting speaker coming the morning of the 25th, and which is an event open to your staff as well. The board meeting itself will be a relatively brief board meeting, 1 to 2 p.m. on Friday the 25th, followed by a 2-hour strategic session. All of this taking place at the Confluence. And our Land Use Servicing Committee meeting, you are about to receive a note that tells you October 3rd is no longer in your calendars. So you get the morning of the 3rd of October back. Hallelujah. We will make, however, efforts likely to have a meeting on the 1st of November would be the next Land Use Servicing Committee meeting. And then Friday, 8th of November, Governance Committee, chaired ably by the Vice Chair of that committee, Mayor Peter Brown, because I am unfortunately going to be out of town on that day. And with that, unless there's nothing else, the agenda being complete, I declare the meeting terminated. Thank you all. Have a fantastic afternoon. Be well.